Hello! Today I'll be reading Dr. Seuss's classic, The Lorax, about how humans must stay in balance with the earth. We cannot take all the trees and resources. We need to protect nature and stay in balance. At the far end of town where the grickle grass grows, and the wind smells slow and sour when it blows, and no birds ever sing excepting old crows, is the street of the lifted Lorax. What is that? And deep in the grickle grass, some people say, if you look deep enough, you can still see today where the Lorax once stood just as long as it could before somebody lifted the Lorax away. What was the Lorax? And why was it there? And why was it lifted and taken somewhere? From the far end of town where the grickle grass grows, the old onceler still lives there. He knows. You won't see the onceler. Don't knock on his door. He stays in his lurkim on top of his store. He lurks in his lurkim, cold under the roof, where he makes his own clothes out of muffled moof. And on special dank midnights in August, he peeks out of the shutters, and sometimes he speaks and tells how the Lorax was lifted away. He'll tell you, perhaps, if you're willing to pay. On the end of a rope, he lets down a tin pail, and you have to pay 15 cents and a nail, and the shell of a great-great-grandfather snail. And then he pulls up the pail and makes a most careful count to be sure that you've paid him the correct amount. And then he hides what you paid him away in his snub, his secret strange hole in his gruvulous gruv. And then he grunts, "I will call you by the whispermaphone, for the secrets I have to tell you are for your ears alone." And slop! Down slops the whispermaphone to your ear, and the onceler whispers they're not very clear, since they have to come down through this snurgly hose, and it sounds as if he has smallish bees up his nose. "Now I tell you," he says with his teeth sounding gray, "how the Lorax got lifted and taken away. It all started way back. Such a long, long time back. Way back, in the days when the grass was still green, and the pond was still wet, and the clouds were still clean, and the swan of the swommy swans rang out in space. One morning I came to this glorious place, and at first I saw the trees. Oh, those truffula trees, the bright-colored tufts of the truffula trees, mile after mile of them in the fresh morning breeze. What a beautiful world that is. And under those trees I saw the brown barbaloots frisking about in their barbaloot suits as they played in the shade and ate truffula fruits. And from the rippulous pond came the comfortable sound of the humming fish humming while splashing around. But those trees, those truffula trees, all my life, that's the onceler. I'd been searching for trees such as these. The touch of their tufts was softer than silk, and they had a sweet smell like fresh butterfly milk. I felt such a great leaping of joy in my heart, and I knew just what to do, so I unloaded my cart. And in no time at all, I had built a small shop, and I chopped down a truffula tree with one chop. And from its silky tuft, I knitted a thneed. And the instant I'd finished, I heard a gazup, and I looked, and I saw something pop out of the stump. Out of the tree I'd chopped down. It was a sort of a man. Describe him? That's hard. I don't know if I can. He was shortish and oldish and brownish and mossy, and he spoke with a voice that was that was sharpish and bossy. "Mister," he said with a sawdusty sneeze, "I am the Lorax, and I speak for the trees. And I'm asking you, sir, at the top of my lungs, I speak for the trees have no tongues." And he was very upset as he shouted and puffed. "What is that thing you've made out of my truffula tuft?" "Lorax, Lorax," I said, "there's no cause for alarm. I chopped just one tree. I'm doing no harm. I'm being quite useful. This thing is a thneed, and a thneed is a fine something that all people need. It's a shirt, it's a sock, it's a glove, it's a hat, but it has other uses, yes, far beyond that. You could use it for carpets, or pillows, or sheets, or curtains, or covers for bicycle seats." The Lorax said, "Sir, you are crazy with greed. There's no one on earth who would buy that fool thneed." But the very next moment I proved he was wrong, for just at that moment a chap came along and thought that the thneed that I'd knitted was great and happily bought it for $3.98. So I laughed at the Lorax as I counted my money. I laughed at the Lorax. "You poor stupid guy. You never can tell what some people will buy." Oh, the Onceler is quite rude. To the Lorax, at least. "I repeat," cried the Lorax, "I speak for the trees." "I'm busy," I told him. "Be quiet, if you please." So I rushed across the room, and in no time at all, I built a radio phone, and I put in a quick call. I called all my brothers and uncles and aunts, and I said, "Listen here, here's a wonderful chance for the whole Onceler family to get mighty rich. Get over here fast and take the road to North Nitch. Turn left at Weehawken, a sharp right at South Stitch." Look at his factory getting bigger with more and more workers. And there's the Lorax, still trying to stand up for the trees. In no time at all, in the factory I built, the whole Onceler family was working full tilt. We were all knitting thneeds just as fast as bees, to the sound of the chopping of the truffula trees. Then, oh baby, oh, how my business did grow. Now chopping one tree at a time was too slow. So I quickly invented my super axe hacker, which whacked off 4 truffula trees with one smacker. We were making thneeds 4 times as fast as before. And the Lorax? Well, he just didn't show up anymore. But the next week, he knocked on my new office door and he snapped, "I'm the Lorax, who speaks for the trees, which you seem to be chopping down as fast as you please. But I'm also in charge of the brown barbaloots, who played in the shade in their barbaloot suits and lived happily eating truffula fruits. But now, thanks to your hacking my trees to the ground, there's not enough truffula fruit to go round, and my poor barbaloots are all getting the crummies because they all have gas and no food in their tummies." Oh, those poor sick barbaloots. "They loved living here, but I can't let them stay. They'll have to find food, and I hope that they may. Good luck, boys," the Lorax cried, and he sent them away. I, the Onceler, felt sad as I watched them all go. But business is business, and business must grow, regardless of crummies and tummies, you know. What do you think? What do you think the Onceler should do? Do you think he might need to protect what's left of the forest? Maybe slow down his business a little bit so that both the forest and his business can grow? I meant no harm. I most truly did not, but I thought I had to grow bigger, so bigger I got. I biggered my factory, I biggered my roads, and I biggered my wagons and biggered my loads of the thneeds I shipped out. And I was shipping them forth to the south, to the east, to the west, to the north, and I went right on biggering, selling more thneeds, and I biggered my money, which everyone needs. He is getting greedy. Then once Again, the Lorax came back while I was fixing some pipes, and that nuisance Lorax came back with more gripes. I am the Lorax, he coughed and he wheezed. Onceler, he cried with a crofulous croak. He sneezed and he snuffled, he snargled and he sniffed. Onceler, you're making such smogulous smoke. My poor swanny swans, why, they can't sing a note. No one can sing when they have smog in their throats. And so, said the Lorax, please pardon my cough, they cannot live here, so I'm sending them off. Wait, where will they go? I don't even know. They may have to fly for a month or a year to escape all the smog you've smoggered up around here. And this, friends, is why there's not a lot of big wild animals near people or in cities, because if we cut down too much nature, there's not enough for them to live on. What's more, snapped the Lorax, his dander was up, let me say a few words about this gloppily glop. Your machinery chugs on day and night without stop, making gloppity glop and sloppity slop. And what do you do with this leftover goo? I'll show you, you dirty old onceler man, you. Ew, look at that. Where does he put it? You're glumping up the pond where the humming fish hummed. No more can they hum, for their gills are all gummed. So I'm sending them off. Oh, their future is dreary. They'll have to walk on their fins and get woefully weary in search of some water that isn't so smeary. And then, I, the onceler, I got mad. I got terribly mad, and I yelled at the Lorax, now listen here, Dad. Plot twist, the onceler is the Lorax's son. All you do is yap yap and say bad, 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 bad. Well, Lorax, I have rights too, and I'm telling you, I intend to keep on doing just what I do. And for your information, you Lorax, I'm figuring on biggering and biggering and biggering and biggering, turning more truffula trees into thneeds, which everyone needs. And at that very moment, we heard a loud whack. From outside in the fields came a sickening smack of an axe on a tree, and then we heard the tree fall. And this one was the very last truffula tree of them all. No more trees, no more thneeds, no more work to be done. So, in no time at all, my uncles and aunts and every one all waved me goodbye and jumped into cars, and they drove away under the smoke-smuggered stars. Now all that was left beneath the bad-smelling sky was my big empty factory, the Lorax, and I. The Lorax said nothing. He just gave me one glance, just one very sad backwards glance, and then he lifted himself by the seat of his pants, and I'll never forget the grim look on his face when he hoisted himself and took leave of this place. There he goes. Through a hole in the smog, without leaving a trace. And all that Lorax left here in this mess was a small pile of rocks with one word, unless. Whatever that meant, I just couldn't guess. But that was a very long time ago. But each day since that day, I've sat here and worried away through the years, while my buildings have fallen apart, and I've worried about it with all of my heart. But now, said the onceler, now that you're here, the words of the Lorax seem perfectly clear, unless someone like you cares a whole awful lot. Nothing is going to get better. It's not. So, catch, calls the onceler, and he lets something fall. It's a truffula seed. It's the last one of all. You're in charge of the last of the truffula seeds, and truffula trees are what everyone needs. Plant a new truffula and treat it with care. give it clean water, and feed it fresh air. Grow a forest and protect it from the axes that hack. And then the Lorax and all of his friends might come back. And that, my friends, is the mysterious end. Can we replant the forests we've chopped down? Can we heal the earth? It's up to kids like you to try. Thanks for listening.